I've been telling you that there is this big corporate news break that has been scooped up by our colleague Nimesh Shah, and Nimesh is here with us. This is the big news coming on Kotak Mahindra Bank. Go ahead, Nimesh. What have you picked up?
Well, Lata, so what I've picked up from sources is that most likely there is a possibility that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway may like, in fact, they're in talks to buy a stake in Kotak Mahindra Bank. Now, there are two ways or two possibilities by which they can look to buy stake. One is possibly buy out Uday Kotak's 10% stake, which he anyway has to dilute by December 31st. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that maybe there will be a preferential allotment as well to Berkshire Hathaway, which means that the money will then come into the bank, which will be probably used for growth. So these are the two possibilities. What I understand from sources is what is likely been talked about. Again, I just want to caveat this. This is very price sensitive. It's likely to happen. So these are all source-based information. We don't have any confirmation from any of the parties yet, but we've reached out to both the individuals as well. So I'll come back to that as well. So the range I'm given is if it's a 10% direct buyout from Uday Kotak, then the deal could be around $3.5 billion. Remember, current market cap of Kotak Mahindra Bank is close to $32 billion. So it works out to, at no premium, it works out to $3.2 billion. In case if there is a preferential allotment, I am told the amount could be as high as $6 billion as well. So the range I'm given is between $3.5 to $6 billion is what Warren Buffett may look to invest if indeed he takes a call of investing into Kotak Mahindra Bank. As things stand, as we all know that by December 31st, Uday Kotak need to dilute stake from 30% to 20% as per the RBI regulation. So that probably prompts for a possible deal which can come up in Kotak Mahindra Bank. Officially, the official response from Kotak Mahindra Bank is no comments. They don't want to comment at all, whether it's speculative or whatever. So there's just one line from them, no comments on this particular query from CNBC TV 18. In the last 1.5 days, we've reached out to Berkshire Hathaway's office as well. There is no official response from them. Neither we could speak to the secretary of Warren Buffett. So no response from Warren Buffett yet. So right now we have to just go with the official comment, which is no comment from Kotak Mahindra Bank, and no response from Berkshire Hathaway. So this is one possibility, Lata.
Okay, I just want to reiterate everything that Nimesh has said. Berkshire Hathaway is mulling a possibility, is what we have heard. It's likely. We have reached out to Kotak Mahindra. They have said no comment. We have reached out to Berkshire Hathaway repeatedly through email and phone, and we have not got any response. I just want every investor out there, I can see the Kotak Mahindra share rising 4.5%, now 5%. But we just want to tell you that this is mulling, likely. We've reached out to both parties. We have not got a confirmation from them. We got a no comment from one party. So just keep all that in mind. This is how we've approached the news. We've tried to do as much diligence as possible.
Yes, in fact,
so Lata, just to add to what I've said earlier, so this is one possibility of Berkshire Hathaway looking at buying out stake in Kotak Mahindra Bank. What I also understand from sources is that two of the largest existing shareholders of Kotak Mahindra Bank have reached out to their respective boards and are looking to take permissions that in case there is a big block coming in terms of Uday Kotak's personal stake before December 31st, they should be ready. And I'm told at least one of the large investors have already got approval for a $1.5 billion if indeed they have to put in stake. So not only that this is a possibility of Berkshire Hathaway buying stake, there are also possibility of a block deal which can happen. In that case, what I understand, the two existing large shareholders have already reached out to their respective boards and they're keeping their permissions ready, because after 15th of December, most of the large FIs will be on a holiday. So they want to make sure that they have the permission in place. In case before December 31st there is a big block, they should be ready to put in money in Kotak Mahindra Bank.
And just the arithmetic, it's 30% that Mr. Kotak has. The rules require that by December 31, he has to bring it down to 20%. And that's why we are talking about this deal.
So I just want to get Adrian's view on board, because he was telling us, in the break that he's been following Berkshire Hathaway very closely as well. It's a knee-jerk reaction right now, but from a Kotak Mahindra Bank investor standpoint, what would your view be?
So it's the 7th of December, right?
Yeah.
And you're highlighting investors, come the 14th, they're probably thinking about Christmas, etc. So we're leaving it right to the last minute.
Yes.
And so clearly to move from a fear of an overhang to one in which there might potentially be a number of options is very important, with all the caveats you've already made about no comments so far from Berkshire Hathaway or from Kotak. It obviously does make sense from a Berkshire Hathaway standpoint. They have a lot of investments in financials, very big positions in things like Wells Fargo, etc. And they do take investments offshore as well. And so that would make sense. But also, I think it makes sense that FIIs have been thinking about this overhang, but they might be more thinking about it being as an opportunity to invest at a little bit of a discount because they need to get it done.
Sure.
So it's going to be very interesting, but it is the 7th of December and the clock is ticking.
Absolutely. And yeah, the rule is that Mr. Kotak really doesn't lose much if the date is pushed back beyond December 31.
Okay.
He may not want to, fall foul of regulators, but even afterwards, the penalty is not very big.
Yeah.
He cannot have fresh branches. Except with the permission of the regulator, and he can't increase salaries of the managing director unless they abide by the rule. But in principle, a bank may not want to disobey the regulator even for a day. So that's why literally the clock is ticking.
Eden, I want to just have your views. What has been, because you've been tracking this company very closely in the US, typically how has Berkshire Hathaway worked in outside US countries? We saw the first investment from Berkshire Hathaway in August this year when they bought a very small stake in Paytm. So that was a very first investment in 72 years of their investment history, the first time into India. Do we get a sense that even globally, if they start investing into a particular country, they look for larger size, and this possibly means that there could be a large transaction in India in the financial space?
Not necessarily outside the United States. In the United States, very large transactions.
Sure.
So the ones I can think about are BYD, which is electric vehicle manufacturer in China. There's been various Israeli investments that they've made. A lot in the industrial space. Paytm is interesting because it's India, but it's also technology. Which has not necessarily been Berkshire Hathaway's comfort zone.
Okay.
So I would suggest that looking at previous investments, they've tended to be more modest and they've tended to be more in the industrial space outside the United States.
Okay.
In fact, I think we have two more guests joining in. Kunal Shah, Edelweiss, is also with us, and Krishnan, ACV of SBI Cap. Krishnan, come in on this. I mean, the stock is now up in excess of 5%. Of course, we haven't got any comment from either party, but if this does take place, then from a Kotak Mahindra Bank shareholder, what should the approach be?
Yeah, hi. Many thanks. Obviously, at this point of time, it is source-based, speculative, etc. So to that extent, I wouldn't react. But then it remains a fundamentally very strong franchise. So I don't think so. Once you take care of the technical overhang of a fair amount of supply coming into the market, you can get rid of the distractions and take a more fundamental. We generally believe it's a very strong franchise in the making. But the return ratios obviously could be under pressure. That would be my take. But I mean, source-based information, very hard for a fundamental analyst to take a call.
Yes, I can imagine the markets have taken it up 5%. This news is worth more, but everyone wants to be sure before you take any call. But Kunal Shah, your comments. It is still early hours. We've got only a no comment from both sides. But what would be your comment be on the share itself?
No, so Kotak has not commented anything on it, but definitely this was being watched out for as to how they are trying to bring down the shareholding from 30% to 20%. And I think if this happens, it takes away the overhang which is there in the stock. Otherwise, I think Kotak in the current environment is very appropriately positioned to benefit of the overall conditions which are there in terms of gaining the market share. They have built a very strong liability franchise as well, and they have adequate capital on the balance sheet. So they are well prepared for growth. So fundamentally, it's on a strong footing. The only overhang was in terms of stake dilution, and maybe if even though it's a speculation as of now, if this news comes true, it could be positive for the stock.
Oh yes, positive for the stock as of now, 6% higher. Well, we will have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Krishnan and Kunal, for joining us. We will keep trying and getting more opinion, and we continue with our diligence as well. We'll keep trying to reach out to Berkshire Hathaway as well. Adrian Mowat, thank you very much for staying with us and for being with us on our birthday.